Now, it's a phone call that no parent wants to receive, but last Tuesday, Kerry Katona was told that her 10-year-old son had been attacked by a group of youths on his way to school.
Well, fuelled with rage, Kerry's instinct was to hunt down the group and bring them to justice. But just how far should parents go to stop a bully? Kerry's here. Alongside her is psychologist Emma Kenny as well. Welcome.
Welcome.
So what happened? It was last Tuesday, and it was Max, wasn't it? What happened to Max?
Yeah, so we live about a 10-minute walk from school, and Max loves walking to school. I was in London filming, and I got a phone call saying that Max was walking to school, and on his way to school there was 3 boys who had high school uniforms on. In fact, Max recognised the uniforms because my Heidi goes to the same school. And Max was walking along, they started saying things to him, and one of them just turned around and went like this in his eye, and he had a big black eye. I don't think he was targeted per se because it was him or because I'm his mum. I just think it was one of those incidents. I hope he wasn't targeted because I have been making him walk to school again on his own. But I was heartbroken. In the car, I just kept thinking, I know what my son's like. He can be quite shy around people he doesn't know. Yeah. And the fact that they were older boys, he was probably like, oh, my God, there's older boys. I want to be like that. And when it happened, I just thought, my poor little boy, yeah, he's 10 years of age, and these boys are in high school.
And that all sounds quite measured, but initially, when you got the phone call on the Tuesday, you were angry,
I was furious. I wanted to rip their heads off. I think any parent, any mother, you find out somebody's done any kind of harm to your child, as a parent, your back initially goes up. You know, you just want to, you know, put your hands around the throat. Obviously, I wouldn't do that. Violence doesn't solve violence at all. Once I calmed down a little bit, I spoke to the school. The school took every measure that they could. Fair play to the school. They phoned the high school to report the incident. The next day, obviously, I've got home to Max. He was fine. He was absolutely fine. He was trying to brush it off. But then the next day, on the Wednesday, I woke him up for school. I went down to do the breakfast, and he came down in his shorts, and he was crying. And I think he got a bit of delayed shock. And he said, Mum, please don't make me go into school today. Obviously, I wasn't going to make him go into school that day. I said, OK, have the day off with me, lots of cuddles. I rang the school, informed the school. He went to play on his Xbox, and I was like, no, it's a beautiful day. We'll go out for a walk in Ashdown Forest, where we live. And then on the Thursday, we went to school, and I walked him to school myself. I asked him what time he left. He said he left at 8, so we left at 8. And my plan was, I wasn't going to do any harm to the children. My plan was to find the boys and ask them to take me to their mum and dad's house, or their parents' house, or their guardian's house. And if they wouldn't, I was going to take a picture of them and send the picture into the high school for them then to deal with it. The same day we didn't find the boys, I then went to high school myself because my Heidi goes to that school. I took the picture of my son's black eye, and they said, look, we've had the phone call, we're going to address it in assembly today. But the fact that Max doesn't know who the boys were, there's not much anybody can do about it.
Yeah.
Could have lost his eye, you know, he's a 10-year-old boy. And just that happening to him, I mean, I cried all the way home. I was absolutely heartbroken for him. But I did make him walk to school himself on the Friday.
And he's OK now?
He's fine. I thought, for me, it was like getting on a bike, falling off a bike and getting back on it again. I don't want... You have the speakments on here all the time, and triggers and, you know, the blueprint in your brain. I didn't want him to get so scared of walking again on his own, so I literally made him. Not too much persuasion, I didn't force him. Yeah. You know, he just got up the next day and walked to school on his own.
That reaction is very, you know, sort of lioness, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, protecting your cubs, absolutely.
Absolutely. Instinctually, primordially, what do you do when the thing that you love most is harmed? You want to attack. And that goes back to our roots of territorial ownership over the ones that we love. So what you felt was absolutely correct. I think what was important was that recognition of taking a step back.
Yeah.
Just taking a step back and recognising there's a few issues there. First of all, I think when we deal with bullying, absolutely, you need to go to the school, you need to go to the root and have a discussion. But the most important part is the child that's affected. So how can you explore with that child how they're affected? Secondly, what do you want them to do with you? Because you want them involved. You need to give them some power in that situation. Obviously, deal with the trauma, which you were doing and are doing. But I suppose one of the hardest things with bullying is you can't always solve it, because the truth are that bullies exist and sometimes you don't have access to them. So actually empowering your child is probably the most important thing.
I mean, you hear these things, empower your child. How?
One of the most important things for me has been advising parents to help their children learn things like defence arts. So I encourage things like jiu-jitsu, I encourage things like Thai boxing, and it's not because for 1 minute I expect my children to run down the road taking on the world.
Yeah.
It's the opposite, actually. What we learn is restraint and control. But if a child feels powerful, then a child is less, firstly, likely to be bullied, but secondly, more able during that situation to make it clear that they are not going to be bullied. And I think bully-proofing kids is something that we've got to try to do. Having said that, Kerry's right, get into school, get those children dealt with, because they will go on to harm other kids if that's the issue.
At one point, I wanted to ring the police and report it because it is an assault.
Arrest them.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I am a lioness. You touch my kids and I go mad. You initially do. And what was quite funny, I saw it in the other children as well, Molly and Lily. They was on Instagram, who's done this to I'm going to kill him. And I actually had to say to Molly and Lily, look, that's not going to solve anything because we're just setting a bad example.
Something you also say that's important is to monitor the behaviour of the child that might have had an incident like this.
Because of trauma, absolutely.
Yeah.
So trauma doesn't always happen straight away. A child can be in an incident where they're assaulted, and it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks before you actually see that impact. If they become withdrawn, if their behaviour changes, if they don't want to go to school, if they become more tearful, younger children, if they start wetting behaviours again, for example, these are all triggers that suggest that they're struggling psychologically. So absolutely take it seriously. The great thing about this morning is that you've got a really extensive list of how to deal with bully lines. So you've got all the kind of help advice.
We've got our whole Be Kind package.
It's amazing.
We're gonna bump that right up to the top of the website. So so if you want to look at our Be Kind resources, they'll actually be quite easy.
And they're
to find
amazing.
from now
Do it
on.
anyway and take it into your school. If you're worried about bullying at your child's school and you don't know where to turn, you've tried
Exactly.
everything, download this and get them to have a look at it.
Absolutely.
It
Well,
does
Lauren
work.
says violence doesn't solve violence. Those bullies are
agree.
kids who probably got bullied themselves.
Yeah, and I actually thought that if I rang the police and then found out who the boys were, what impact would that have had on the boys who actually did the bullying? I kind of took a step back and thinking, well, that's not going to help them. That might make them worse if they kind of got a bit of a record. Is that going to help them overcome what they're doing, bullying people? Or so in my head, I kind of took a step back and went, I'll go to school.
Well, I'm glad he's all right, and please send him our love
I will.
as well, won't
I
you,
will.
Kerry? And it's
Yeah.
nice to see you as well.
Thank you.
Emma.